It is Season 1, Episode 23. I'm your host, Jeff Allen Wolf, for A World Gone Mad. And I want to get right into it. Kid gloves are off. I want to get right to the core of several news stories. And this is definitely 100% unfiltered. It's always unfiltered for me. I don't believe in BS spin. I don't believe in talking points or garbage like the Republicans do, and also the Democrats to some extent. We need to get real. And if this is the first time of you listening to my podcast, I comment on the national news, the world news, politics, different things I come across. My background is radio and television with over 40 years, and now I'm doing this for the last 4 months. And enough is enough. All of these podcasts and all of these Republican podcasts, and even some of the Democratic podcasts, the videos and the sound clips and the commentary, that's all nice. But the reality is this world has gone mad for many years now, and we need to get back on track. We've lost our direction, people. And both sides, honestly, I'm a Democrat. I will support Joe Biden and Kamala Harris come November, but both sides need to start paying attention to the citizens of this country and stop with the garbage and stop with the cutesiness and stop with the bigotry and also stop with how much power can I gain from my state or my governorship or my senator seat or my cabinet seat or my committee member chairmanship, and how much money can I make and what connections can I make? And I know it sounds naive, and the listeners are going, Jeff, you're being naive. I don't think so. Reality is this country has to move forward, get stronger, get bolder, get more visionary with what we're trying to do for the next 20, 30 years, whether it be global warming, whether it be immigrants and people at the border coming in, whether it be health insurance, whether it be, you name it. We need to get better and sharper and more focused. And frankly, the leadership everywhere is leaving us bereft of any directions other than this infighting crap in Congress and all parts of the United States in different power structures. Here's a perfect example of this world gone mad with the Senate Republicans this past week blocked an attempt by Democrats to pass a bill to ban bump stocks in the wake of a recent Supreme Court ruling that shot that down. And if you're not aware, for those that aren't, the bill would have enacted a federal ban on the sale of the devices. Bump stocks allow a shooter to convert a semi-automatic rifle into a weapon that can fire at a rate of hundreds of rounds a minute. That's a fact. And the Supreme Court struck that down. And let's get serious, shall we? Saying that facetiously and sarcastically. I'm not a gun expert. I don't claim to be a gun expert. I don't claim to play one on TV. A bump stock is not needed in any situation except one. So let's see. I'm using a bump stock to take a rifle and make it a almost machine gun-like weapon because, that's right, my neighbors are going to break into my house because they're drug-crazed people, or we have a supply line issue with food, and they're going to break it and steal my food and water and harm my family. So therefore, I need a bump stock. No, I'm going out hunting. I'm going to hunt deer and bear and game and birds. I need a bump stock so I can have a machine-like rifle to shoot hundreds of birds a minute or hundreds of bears. No, the bump stock is there for one reason, in my opinion. You disagree with me? Tough. You can write me and tell me. But a bump stock is there in times of war. I could see in a conflagration in another part of the world. There's no reason to have a bump stock on a regular rifle, and the Supreme Court was stupid, the conservative side, for shooting that ban down, and Congress was trying to pass that law to make it a nationwide ban on bump stocks, and the Republican leadership, for the most part, voted against it. This is where we've lost our way. Now, there's a slight glimmer of hope, just a slight little sliver of glimmer of hope. Yeah, maybe. The Supreme Court this past week upheld a federal law Friday that bars guns for domestic abusers. And they rejected an argument pressed by the gun rights groups, of course, the prohibition that it violated the Second Amendment. This is what the gun rights people were saying. It was an 8-1 decision. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the pro side, the majority opinion commentary. And the lone dissenter, of course, was ready. Clarence Thomas. What else is new? So here we go. A little smart showing up, not always, that, hey, if you're a domestic abuser, you abuse your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, your spouse, whatever, you do not have the right to get a gun sold to you or to own a gun. There is no one in this United States, and I doubt any Republicans are listening to this podcast, but let's be clear. There's not one person in this United States, unless you're crazy, that says you're not allowed to have a gun. I'm not saying that. I want a gun. I have a gun. We have a gun. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a gun. But damn it, you're going to register it properly. There's going to be proper procedures. And if you abuse someone in your family, you don't have a right to own a gun. Thank you, Supreme Court, for making 1 out of 100 rulings correctly. And to Clarence Thomas, what the hell are you still doing on the court? You and Alito and a few others shouldn't be there. And I would say shame on you, but it doesn't matter what I say. It's just a bad, disgusting look from Clarence Thomas, the lone dissent on banning a gun from a domestic abuser. So I want to address this one. Steve Bannon, the conservative podcast host and the former, strategist to Donald Trump, the ultimate liar, the one who comes up with all of these theories about saying anything out loud to the public and hopefully something sticks. He has a prison sentence coming up that he has to start for 4 months. I believe it's July 1st he has to report. So he filed a last-minute long shot request to the Supreme Court. Okay? The Supreme Court. I don't have a problem if I'm in your position, Stephen, to ask the Supreme Court to protect me. But you know what? Every single person lately, from all the Trump people that were indicted and have sentences coming up, I need to talk to the Supreme Court. Enough. A federal court found you that you had to report to prison July 1st. And now you're saying to the Supreme Court doesn't have time for this type of garbage. So Bannon, they may rule by the time everyone listens to this podcast. Throw your request out there. It's not going to get granted. If it is, I'd be shocked. I'm just so sick and tired of all of these people who are found guilty and then go, help me, Supreme Court, help me. I need a line. Throw it to me, baby. Not going to happen. Listen what President Biden just said about his own son. He's not going to pardon his son. Take a clue and a lesson. You found indicted? You're indicted, rather. You found guilty. You have to report to whatever the sentence is. The Supreme Court is used in other circumstances, not this. Here's a good one I want to make my opinions known on. The green climate policies of President Biden? Who the biggest winners from that green climate policy or policies are? One word, think clearly. I know all my listeners will get this. Republicans. When President Joe Biden's massive climate bill passed Congress in 2022, here's an example. Republican Representative Richard Hudson of North Carolina complained it was, boondoggle. There's a slam if you want one. The Inflation Reduction Act, which contained the largest climate investment in U.S. history, would throw money at woke climate and social programs that just won't work, including $350 billion for Green New Deal initiatives, Hudson said in a statement after the passage of the policy. Well, guess what? He is one of the members of Congress whose districts has benefited the most from the climate law passing. $12.7 billion in private investment has been announced in Hudson's district. Okay? And that was about a power plant, a car battery plant, rather, jobs. And that's not the only area. The vast majority of the $346 billion worth of announced investments, nearly 78%, has gone to Republican congressional districts. Hell of an irony, isn't it? Every time something is good passed by the Democrats, the Republicans complain, yet they benefit from the money's influx into their city, state, region, whatever, on projects they were trying to do. We don't want this. We don't want the COVID money. We'll take it. We don't want it, but we'll take it. Because that's how I talk, with two faces. I'll think what President Joe Biden is doing is wrong, yet I'm going to get that dollar bill one after the other to trillions and benefit from it, and then campaign on it that look what I brought to my area. Ha! Amazing. Going to take a short break. When I come back, well, let me tell you this real quickly. Don't forget the Facebook group. This is important. A World Gone Mad Podcast. That's the Facebook group. Please join it. We've got almost 400 members there now. Like-minded people like you are fed up with all the garbage that's happening in our world and the world going mad in different places. Join us. It's free. Just look it up, A World Gone Mad Podcast on Facebook. We have a phone number. We have an email I'll give at the break. The phone number I'll give later on. But when I come back, I'm going to talk about two things. The debate is coming up this week. You'll hear the debate after you listen to this podcast. And I want to make some quick commentary on that. I also want to talk about something that someone wrote on my Facebook page, not to me, but in general, and about how we should all get along in different sides of the aisle. And I have a strong commentary on that. So hang in, because there's going to be some choice words here. You're listening to World Gone Mad. I will be right back right after this.
This is a world gone mad. This is a world gone mad.
You're listening to A World Gone Mad. Thank you. And you could reach me by sending me an email. And the email is aworldgonemad.podcast, aworldgonemad.podcast @gmail.com. Leave your first name in the email, your age, your location, where you're, listening to us from, what app, etc., and any comments you have. Also, don't forget to hit subscribe. That way I can let you know when the new episode goes online. It's automatic and it's free. Also, if you can review, rate, rank the show on the app you're listening from, that helps me tremendously. I thank you for listening, whether you just joined us for the first time or have been listening for a while. I appreciate that. And now, back to the show.
This is a world gone mad. This is a world gone mad.
And welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf, your host. A couple of quick things. Our phone number, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is 833-399-9653. Please leave a comment. It would be fun to hear from you. And if you don't want me to play it on the air, I won't. Just tell me that in your comment, but I will read it. Love to hear from you. The Facebook group, you already have. Our email, aworldgonemadpodcast@gmail.com, aworldgonemadpodcast@gmail.com. Love to get your comments. And I know podcasts is a different sort of beast. Most people don't write, email, or phone, but it would be nice to hear from some of you. Otherwise, like I said several episodes ago, podcasters sit in a room and talk to themselves. I don't want to feel like I'm just talking to myself. I want to hear some people are out there and some feedback and some interaction. If you think I'm wrong, tell me. If you think I'm right, hey, nice to hear from you. Okay? Let's talk about the debate coming up. Donald Trump, President Biden. Coming up. I believe it's this Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. You will have already heard this podcast, so I will not be able to comment on the aftermath until next week. But the big question is right now, will Donald show? I don't know. I think he will. It would be kind of strange that he doesn't, but you know how he thinks. I would expect at the last minute that he doesn't. The other key thing is this is stacked against him in one aspect. There are no microphones on live all the time. The microphones are muted until each person is asked a question. So if Donald's asked a question, his microphone's turned on, and President Biden's is off, and vice versa. So that's different. Secondly, it's contained and controlled, and there's no audience, which we mentioned before that I stated the previous episode or two that Donald feeds off of audience. So with that in mind, I don't know if he'll show up. I think he will. The question is, how is he going to handle himself? The fears, and I'm being honest, basically President Biden's basically 81 years old. Donald Trump basically 78 to round everything up. Not a lot of difference. You know, people could be younger and be sharp. People could be older and be sharp. If President Biden does as well as he did in his State of Union address, no issues. If he looks bad and fumbles with everything in his favor, that's going to hurt his nomination or renomination again this November. So this is going to be intriguing what happens in the debate. What do you think? What do you think will be really your commentary before the debate? But how do you feel about this? I'm a little bit cautious. Hopefully, President Biden will look well. And, the other thing, that's what I just remembered, the coin flip. They flipped and Donald goes last. Donald gets the summation. So this is going to be interesting after President Biden speaks and then Donald gets to talk. We'll see how rational Donald is, how contained he is. Apparently, he claimed he interrupted too many times last time, 4 years ago plus. And this should be intriguing. So on my Facebook page, not the Facebook group for the podcast, but my regular Facebook page, there was a thread going on. And if you're familiar with Facebook, you know, people post about cats or the hockey championship or trips they went on or whatever. They posted kind of non-politically loosely that, you know, we should just not have politics on Facebook. And we shouldn't dislike our family members or friends if they're on the other side of the aisle. We kind of should just avoid that. And I'm not going to read the exact quote, but I'm going to give you the gist of it. And I'm going to be very fair. The quote was basically, if you're not talking to a friend or a family member because they're for Trump, they're for Biden, whatever, that's silly. You should just put your arms around them, figuratively or literally, hug them, tell them you love them, and just keep politics out of the equation and move forward. And while that sounds wonderful, it's not realistic. And I responded back to that, I think, in a very clear, rational comment. I have yet to see feedback on that. I just did that before I started doing this podcast today. When you support a particular person, it reflects on you and your personality and your belief structure. I really believe that. And if I'm wrong, I would be very surprised about that. So if you say, hey, I like the Lakers, I don't like the Lakers, I like toast in the morning, I don't like toast, I like bagels, that's a different story. And I shouldn't hate you for that. I got that. But if you're telling me that you're supporting a candidate like you-know-who is a womanizer, who has no respect for women, who has no respect for immigrants. Hey, everyone in this country, their family were immigrants except for Native Americans. Everyone came from somewhere other than the United States. If you basically dislike people of color, people of gender, or gays, or people who took COVID shots, or people who, you get my gist, right? And or you write wrong on a document and you lie to get a loan, or you cheat, or you keep money, or etc. That reflects on you, people. So this thing about kumbaya and holding hands and wrapping my hands and arms around you and telling you I love you as a friend and a family member, I'm sorry. You're telling me this is who you are by supporting a person who has this belief system. I'm not talking about if you're Republican and support Bob Dole or Ronald Reagan or George Bush or whatever you think of those people, or Carter or Clinton and Obama. That's different. But to support someone who has this belief system tells me that's what you feel. So I can't, in good conscience, wrap my arms around you and tell you, don't worry about it, I still care about you. I have lost family members, and I've lost friends because of their support from the coming nominee for the Republican Party. How do you feel? Have you stopped speaking to friends and family? I want to hear from you. Tell me what you think. If you think I'm wrong, let me hear your reasons why. We're not talking about political parties now, even though it's part of that. We're talking about a belief structure that someone espouses and goes on and on. It's okay to lie. It's okay to cheat. The election was stolen. I can't like you as a friend anymore. I can't like you as a family member. I'm sorry. That may sound petty. That may sound thin-skinned. Let me know. Email, podcast, Facebook group, the phone number, or leave a comment. If you're on certain apps, you can leave a comment in the middle of the podcast directly. Let me know, okay? Big issue to hear from you about. Has that destroyed you with a family member or friend that you no longer talk to because of the last 4 to 8 years because of Donald Trump? It's important to discuss this. I will be back next week with another episode of A World Gone Mad. I'm your host, Jeff Allen Wolf. There are changes coming to the podcast in the next several months. I'm letting you know. Some good, I think. We're going to switch things up. We're going to do things differently. I will announce it as we go along. But until then, stay hopeful.